I guess if I can just say this, because I do agree, I disagree in a big way with Black Lives Matter and this young quarterback who just did this demonstration recently, but we can't agree on one thing. We can't agree that there's black oppression. And I'm going to ask them to join me, to stand with me, to ask John Lewis, Elijah Cummings, the Black Caucus, to retire immediately. They have done absolutely nothing for the black race for the decades they've been in place, other than vote and support 100% with no backbone whatsoever the anti-black policies of the Democratic Party. So I was fortunate to play with two great quarterbacks, Joe Namath and Jim Plunkett, and we all retired when we could not produce. It's now time for this group of Democrats who have not stood for our race. Their results is in these cities that are at the top of the list of black misery. It's time for them to retire immediately, and for those who don't want to, which they won't, it's time for us to educate their communities that we need to work against them to get them out of there. All these black Democrats, we need to get rid of them. Part of this is what the Democratic Party has done to our race. They have convinced us that it's okay for groupthink, for blacks to think with their skin. At the end of the day, we have right now 83% of black teen males are unemployed across our country. 70% of black men forsake their family, leave their kids in marriage. Across the board, illiteracy is going through the roof. 93% of black people are being killed by black people. These are issues that we need to talk about, and it's not white people doing it to us. It's policies. And it's a policy of the Democrats. If we educate ourselves and understand that what these policies have done for decades, then we'll start to see where we are. And it's not because of white, rich Republicans. It's those who run the communities where this black misery is the highest. My book talks about political free agency. We need to, as a race, start looking at our principles and values first. If we're capitalists, let's stop voting for democratic socialists. If we're Christians, let's stop voting for democratic atheists. If we believe in that all kids should have education no matter how poor they are, we cannot vote for the Democratic Party, including President Obama, who believes we should keep our kids segregated in these poor bad schools. And if we believe in the sanctity of life, it's time for us as a race, for those who believe this, to stand up and stop voting for these black and white Democratic Margaret Singers who believe our kids are nothing but weeds. We can pull our race back by being political free agents and make the Democratic Party and the Republican Party work for our vote. Be accountable. We do that. We can not only, I think, bring our race back, but I truly believe that small minority, 28% of black Americans who feel the way I do, very patriotic, love our country, love our race, we can bring our country back at the same time.
Come on in, please. Super Bowl champ and author of Liberalism. It's a long title. The actual title is Liberalism. I can't read it, but it's a great title, ladies and gentlemen. I just love it. His name is Burgess Owens, and he joins us again. Are you buying that ratings are down because of the hurricanes rather than the taking the knee for the anthem and the flag?
Stuart, how you doing? Well, first of all, this is going to be a conversation we'll have throughout the year. In my mind, the least of my concerns is the NFL. It's going to take care of itself. We have a free market. The Americans are going to either decide to buy into it or not. My concern is the message they're giving to black Americans across this country, those who are at risk, who want hope in this country, but because of their focus and what they allow to happen, anti-American sentiment, they're losing that hope. So that's really where the conversation should be. I could care less about NFL. The commissioner will one day be fired or resign, and they'll move on. Meanwhile, the impact on my community is what I'm looking for right now.
Burgess, I also want your take on this. The president has been tweeting about the ESPN situation. Here's what he said. ESPN is paying a really big price for its politics and bad programming. People are dumping it in record numbers. Apologize for untruth. I think this fits into your critique of black athletes leading some people down the wrong path. What do you say about ESPN?
Well, I think as we learn our history, the reason why I could care less about the KKK or the white supremacists is I know my history. My parents' generation, my grandparents' generation kicked the butt of these guys by succeeding. We led the country in the growth of the middle class after World War II, led the growth in men committed to marriage and higher education. We were doing what we need to do. My concern right now are those, the black elitists, the royalty black class, that live the life of America. They have the great homes, the great education, and yet they tell other black Americans they can't do it. This, to me, is where the problem is. I call them the parasites, because they suck the very heart and soul and hopes out of our black communities and leave nothing behind as they move on and live the American dream. So black America, conservative Americans will coming to the aid We're going to be there to make sure that our kids, these young men who become successful, understand what they do, how to give back, and not take from our communities.
What's the reaction to you as a black man saying this kind of thing? Because all I hear is liberals amongst the black community making their point. How do they react to you when you make your point?
What I love, Stuart, is that I'm finding out that there are many black Americans who feel exactly the same way I do. I can care less about those who don't really care, those who are not educating themselves. There's a small minority of black Americans, 30% of us, who believe in the American dream, believe in our country. We need just a few of us to pull back those who are concerned about our community from the Democratic Party, and we will win. So I'm excited about where we are right now. We're having the kind of conversation we should be having. At the end of the day, we have a royalty black class that is truly our enemy, and those are the ones that continue to divide and call other people with no shame racist while they vote for every anti-black policy down the pipe. Keep in mind, the misery is in black communities controlled by black Democrats. That's our problems. Not white Americans, but those who take the trust and betray us.
Would you tell us again the title of your book? Because I like it. Go.
Liberalism, or how to turn good men into whiners, weenies, and wimps. And my last generation, my dad's generation, they were not whiners, weenies, and wimps. They were winners. And that's what we need to be again.
You're a good man, Mr. Owens. You really are. Come again soon, okay? Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.